Hello, folks. Welcome back. Chris in Central Pennsylvania. A couple of days ago, South African refugee aspirants had sent in responses to queries from Church World Service or the Regional Sports Center, RSC, their subsidiary that's operating the contract to process refugee aspirants from South Africa. In response, they received what appeared to be, in my initial assessment, to be an auto reply that was intended to go to people who had already received ineligibility letters, or as people colloquially calling them, denial letters. Unfortunately, it went out to a number of people, probably a few hundred or more, that received this based on the information I've gotten back from feedback from South African aspirants. They received a message. Those who sent something in, also people who had sent emails in requesting information because they've been waiting a long time, in their view, for a status update on their case. In both instances, it appeared that they received an auto reply. Now, the problem with that auto reply is that, as I said, my initial analysis was that this was a mistake and that that auto reply was likely drafted and intended to send to people who've had an ineligibility letter actually delivered to them. So that message should only have gone to people who actually have an ineligibility letter. And I don't mean to be rude, and I'm not saying the government's rude, but basically I'm telling you why they put that auto reply together. They're being flooded with requests from people who don't have ineligibility letters. They're being flooded with requests from people who have ineligibility letters. Fortunately, that's not a whole lot of people. And they're being overwhelmed. And so in order to stop this, because there's no recourse if you receive an ineligibility letter, you cannot appeal it. You have no legal recourse. You're simply not eligible, and they don't explain why. So because they're getting so many people contacting them, they drafted this auto reply. That was my analysis. And unfortunately, some dimwit didn't set the system correctly. That was my initial analysis. I now have sufficient information to confirm that, in fact, that is exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened. These people sent an auto reply automatically to people who were sending emails to Church World Service and or RSC about their case, even when they were in response to requests from those guys. And they were getting an auto reply not intended for them. Now, if you received one of those a few days ago, you should not fret about that email. It's illegitimate. It was set by mistake. It's not for you. However, if you're still an aspirant waiting for your case to be adjudicated, that doesn't mean that you've been approved. It doesn't mean you will be ineligible. I'm just saying that do not take what I'm telling you today and say, oh, the colonel said I was eligible, and then if you happen to receive an ineligibility letter down the road, no. What I'm telling you is that the email you never should have received. The only people that should be receiving that email are people who, and pardon the term, if it hurts your feelings, it's not intended to, but people who constantly contact RSC and Church World Services about a case that's already been deemed ineligible. In other words, somebody may feel that you're pestering them. Hence, they've sent you this email to saying, cease and desist, stop sending emails, you have no recourse. I'm sure that seems cold to some people, but basically that's the intent of it. All right? So if you receive one of these emails this week, it wasn't for you. That was not supposed to come to you if you've never received an ineligibility letter. If you had previously received an ineligibility letter and you got that email, well, then they're telling you something. Stop sending the messages because you have no recourse. While that's cold and that's unfortunate, that is the ground truth. So my initial analysis after sifting through images and email messages that were sent to me over the first day was that this was a screw up. And I can in fact confirm now that it is a screw up. It should never have happened. It's unfortunate and it's unjust, but that's the reality, ladies and gentlemen. Governments make mistakes. Look at South Africa's government. U.S. government, through its contractors, can make mistakes, and in this case, they made a mistake. Again, if you have already been deemed ineligible, you might get this email. It does apply to you. If you had never received an ineligibility letter from USCIS and received that email, that auto reply, it does not apply to you. And finally, if that was the case, if you've never received an ineligibility letter and you received the email, it doesn't mean you're approved because it was a mistake. It just means that your case is still being decided. So hang in there and hopefully you'll get a resolution on your case in a reasonable amount of time. Cheers, folks.